Hey, thanks for listening. Today, we are going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to be doing a solo episode. Haven't done one of these in a while. And the reason we're doing this is because of a lot of times, some of you end up on my calendar and you're unsure of what we do and how we do it. Now, understand this isn't just about selling you, because what we talk about today are things that you can implement in your business or do yourself. It's just that we help you do them faster, quicker, and give you that second set of eyes to make sure that it's done well. Plus, we have a wealth of tools so that we don't have to build it every time. We're ready to roll with whatever the particular situation is. And so I wanted to lay that out so that you know what it is that we can bring to help you be more profitable, have more cash, and of course, work less. Because at the end of the day, that's why you went into business, right? Nobody went into business to work twice as hard and make half as much. You went in to have time freedom and to be able to be with your family or whatever it is that you wanted to do. And so let's chat about that. Before we get to that, couple of housekeeping things. Number one, we just refreshed the website, all new design and everything else there. So if you haven't been there in a while, check it out. We're going to be adding blog posts to that, so you'll see them there. We'll also have every single episode of the podcast listed on there, along with show notes and so forth. So that is coming as well. You can also sign up for some of the tools that we offer for free. And in addition, I think we're going to start a monthly newsletter. We already do one for our clients. I think what I'm going to do is share that with you as well. So those are things that you can sign up there. If you haven't noticed, we are now capturing and have been capturing video since January of 2024. So it's coming up on a year here. That video of our episodes goes straight to YouTube. There isn't any real editing or anything like that. So you just get the actual interview, none of the intros and outros. If you're listening to this on YouTube, everything else shows up on whatever podcast player you're listening to, and you get the full part of the podcast with my intro, outro, some of the bio, and everything else that goes on there as well. And you can also find that on YouTube. We actually double release there. So check those out. If we're not connected on LinkedIn, feel free to connect with me there. That's where I do most of my business ideas, publishing, and all of that. So that's probably the best place to find me. I'm on some of the other social media, but honestly, I don't pay much attention to it. The other thing is, if you are not aware, we do have the Profit Blueprint program. It's a program designed for smaller business owners who want some help, but not that full level that we do for the rest of our clients. And so it gives you from do it yourself all the way to some time with me to help you make sure that your business is profitable and working well. So it's a lot of the same things and same tools that we use with our clients that you can kind of do with a bit more of a do it yourself mentality with a little bit of help. So if that's of interest, check it out. All right. So when we get a new client, first of all, we have a process that we'll take you through to see if you're a good fit to working with us. There is a link on the website and also in the show notes to click a call to get on my calendar. What we do is we look at your company, we tell you what we see, and then we say, hey, this is how we can help you. And we'll tell you what that looks like from a cost and investment standpoint as well. No hard sells here. You kind of get the flavor of what I'm like on this podcast. That's what you're going to get if we talk live as well. So keep that in mind. If you just want to chat, let's chat. I answer questions too from email. When we have our first call, I'm going to ask you the same question I ask everyone on my other podcast. By the way, if you haven't checked out the other podcast, it might be helpful. It's called Richer Soul. And on that podcast, we talk about the softer side of business and life. We believe your life and your business are integrated. They all come from the same place. And when you can put them in harmony, life is great. So we talk about how to get yourself in good physical shape. What does health look like? How does spirituality weave into your business and into your purpose in life? having the right mindsets. What does leadership look like? How do we talk to our employees? How do we employ systems and processes? All of the softer parts of business. Whereas here, we're talking hard dollars and how to drive cash flow. So they go together well. And again, you can find them everywhere that you do that. But the first question I ask on that podcast of every single guest, regardless of the topic, is tell me about how you grew up and how you learned about money. Here's the reality of the situation, and it's something a lot of people don't talk about. Your money mindsets and beliefs, and most of them were created when you were a kid, are driving your behaviors in your business today. And if we don't understand those beliefs or what is driving your programming and the way you behave, we're going to run into problems in business. And there are some people who think that having money is evil. Now, hopefully, as a business owner, you don't think that. But if you did, then every time you started to build up cash, you would probably self-sabotage and do something in your business to cause you to blow it. And so that's why we're looking for these things. Plus, the way you show up from home to business is the way you're showing up in your business, and they all flow together. So what we really want to do in that first call with our new clients is understand who they are as people. What does their family look like? What are their goals and dreams? What got them to where they are? Where are they stuck? And where do they want to go? Because a lot of times you tell me you want to go X, and then I keep getting these shiny objects that are taking you in a different direction. When I know where you're going, we can help keep you on course and say, is this taking you to where you said you wanted to go? Have we changed where we want to go? Or are we working in alignment? Part of that process, also, what we do for our clients is to help them create a life plan if that is what they'd like to do. And a life plan really starts with your eulogy and says, this is what I want to leave behind as my legacy. And then we work all the way backwards into your business and say, how does your business set into your life? And are they in alignment? And so that's a big part of that first call, is just understanding you, your direction, and getting that in place. And that life plan process for most of my clients, probably 3 to 6 months for them to go through it. And again, it's just part of what we do because that really helps to give that perfect alignment of your business, your life, and everything else together. So after the first call, the second thing we do on the second call is we set a forecast and we say, hey, this is what we're looking to do. We'll look at your current state of business. We'll project what we think we're going to do and what's involved in that. We'll create not only a sales forecast, but a forecast of what spending looks like. And depending on your business and growth, we may have a stair-step forecast. Hey, when we hit this point, we can add more people, new equipment, whatever it is, to kind of take you up and through that. And we work with what are called dynamic and static forecasts. So every month we are looking at the forecast, comparing it to actuals, updating the future and saying, hey, we said this is what it was, this is where we're at, this is where we're going. And so we're constantly aware of that. For some of our clients where cash flow is tight, we will also set up a cash flow monitoring system for them. And so when we do that, they get to say, depending, every business is different, principles are the same. All right, my cash flow looks good for the next 3 to 6 months based on current orders, where we're at, so forth. And that just allows people to sleep at night because they know, hey, this is the money that is promised or expected to come in. And this is what it looks like. And based on our rhythm, things are either thumbs up or thumbs down. And if they're thumbs down, what do we need to correct and change? If they're thumbs up, what did we do well and how do we continue to do that? At the end of the day, it all comes down to math. We have one giant math equation that your entire business runs on. Now, I know that might be a little scary to think about. Most of the math is pretty basic and we do it all for you. So you don't have to worry too much. So let's talk about this big equation. It breaks down to 16 drivers. Each of those drivers is a leverage point in your business. And when we figure out how the levers work, we know which lever can take the least amount of effort and produce the biggest result in your specific situation. And that's what we're trying to do. These levers, they fall into three buckets. The first bucket is the bucket that every entrepreneur focuses on: revenue. And the first set of drivers are all about how do we drive revenue. Now, before we continue, I want to say something. Sales does not equal profit, does not equal cash. Too many times we get confused by that. And each of these buckets actually drives one of those three numbers. So the first bucket is driving sales. So what we look at is, what is the beginning process of the sale? That's lead, right? Or some way that somebody showed interest in your company. Could be a phone call, a website visit, who knows? Each business is different. So what do our leads look like? Then how do we convert those leads into clients? The next question then is, once we convert them into the client, how much are they going to spend on an average purchase? And so that's our average transaction value. And then that tells us our sales. So let's just say we get 100 leads, 20% of them convert. That means I've got 20 people who are buying. If the average sale is $100, then I've got $2,000 in revenue. On top of that, we also look at customer retention and how we can get clients to do repetitive buying if you have a repetitive business model. And if you don't have a repetitive business model, then how do we get your past clients to refer their friends, family, or other people to you to buy what they bought? Because let's face it, let's say you're selling roofs. How often do I need a new roof? Not that often. So in that case, how are we helping them to drive our business? We figure out all these metrics, we put them together in an equation, and we can figure out your sales. Too often we forget about existing clients, how to get them to buy more often, how to increase or price properly to make sure that it's appropriate, and how to incentivize them to refer people to us. So that's your driving sales bucket. The second thing now is profit. So that's your next thing. Again, profit doesn't equal cash. So one of the things I want to talk about from this bucket is, too often we look at revenue. But here's the thing, you can't run your company and your overhead on revenue. What you really run your company on is gross profit, which is the money that's left after you deliver what it is you sold. That's the money, gross profit, that you actually run your business on. Now, here's where we run into problems. Biggest problem, your books and your chart of account is not set up correctly. Don't worry about it. It's technical jargon. People get too caught up in here. What we do is we take it the way it comes. We rearrange it on our side so that we don't have to mess with your bookkeeper or your tax person or anything else. The reality is most books are set up for tax. They are not set up for you to be more profitable. And so we just grab the data and we rearrange the data the way that we want it for you. So driving, we've got revenue coming in. The first thing is our cost of goods. Now, in the simplest sense, it's the materials that we use. But let's just say you happen to be in production and you're creating goods. Well, now you've got labor to take the raw input and turn it into a finished good. The labor of doing that is part of your cost of goods. And so we have to separate that labor from other types of labor. And again, I'm going to try and keep this as simple as possible. So after we get that, we now know, hey, let's say that we sell roofs, right? So if you sell a roof, you got your revenue to do the roof. There was the cost of shingles, your nails, everything else that went into that, plus the cost of labor to do the work, and maybe there's disposal fees. So all of that goes into cost of goods. And then what is left is our general revenue, our gross revenue. Now, out of gross revenue comes a bunch of other things that we look at. One is marketing. So that might be your salespeople. It might be postcards you send out. Could be social media if you're paying for Google AdWords or any of that. All of that is your marketing and sales expense. We want to look at that as an entire part of the equation. The next thing is your general overhead payroll. So all the people who are on payroll who have nothing to do with actually getting that roof onto that house. So that might be the people who actually run your payroll or your HR department, or if you've got an in-house bookkeeper, office admin, people who just answer phones, the cleaning people, all of that is your general payroll. And then we have all our overhead expenses, software, phones, insurance, everything else that is tied to that. And so once we take away all the costs, we know what your profit is at the end of the day. Now, when we look at that, we have certain metrics that we use to analyze it. And we can look at that and say, hey, your overhead's too high, your gross profit is not enough, which means maybe we have a pricing problem. It could be that your cost of goods or the way you're getting your materials is too expensive. We've got to figure out a way to do it better. It could be an efficiency issue. You got guys who are up on the roof, but they're only working 5 instead of 8 hours, or they're moving at a pace that is not what was expected and projected for. So all of this stuff comes into efficiency. In marketing, you might have sales and marketing costs, you're spending for it all, but what's working? Where are the actual results coming in? What's working? What's not working? Are you getting a return on that investment in marketing? And so those are the types of things that we look at. And then we look at all of the costs and we look at them as percentages and ratios to each other to say thumbs up, thumbs down, in alignment, not in alignment. And sometimes you get drift in those areas. And, you start with something and over time you end up adding costs in there and you're just not noticing it. And the next thing you know, you're spending too much and then you don't have profit. And so that's a big part of what we'll do on the profit side. The third part is cash flow. Now, for those of you who may not know this, Profit First is nothing more than a cash flow model that sits on top of anything and everything else we do. So Profit First, think cash flow management. Here are the things that drive cash that is different than profit and why so many people get confused. One of the biggest ones is people owe you money. So just because you made a sale, that doesn't equal profit or cash. It means you made a sale. You think that's great. We celebrate. But when is the cash actually coming to your bank and the check clearing? Because that's the most important thing. Too often as business owners, we turn into banks. We are not banks. If you're going to lend people money, you should get a return. You should get paid for lending people money. So that's where we look at your contracts, your operations of how you're billing and how you're defining when you get paid. The other thing is inventory. Let's face it, going back to the roofing company, if you've got tons of shingles and nails and stuff in inventory, you're going, well, it said I made $100,000 in profit, but I have no cash. You might have $100,000 of inventory. So all your cash is tied up in inventory. We need to appropriately make sure we have the right level of inventory. Now, too often, we look for cash outside of our clients. And so that's where some other parts of cash show up. Some of that cash might be money you borrowed, and it might be money you put into the business. At the same point, when you're paying back your loans, they don't necessarily show up on your P&L. The only thing that shows up on the P&L is the interest cost. When you're paying back the principal, it shows up on your balance sheet. And that's why people are like, wait, I made $100,000. Where'd it go? Well, you paid back $20,000 in loans, and that wasn't accounted for. So that's where some of the cash disappears. The other thing is how you're paying your vendors. If you underpay them 1 month, your profits look good, but you have massive debt because you still owe your vendors. Then you pay them all the next month, and now you didn't make any profit. You're like, what happened? I did things the same. Well, it was a change to how you paid people. And the other thing is taxes. We forget about taxes. And so we have to allocate money to pay the tax bill for you and for the business because unfortunately, they take a pretty good chunk, especially when you are successful. A lot of my businesses, we're putting around 35% aside for taxes because that's how high that expense is. Now, I believe in cutting taxes, but we do it appropriately. So we've got to look at it from a cash flow standpoint. And the last thing is purchasing of assets, right? Your CPA says buy a truck. You buy a $100,000 truck. Maybe you took out a loan. It doesn't really hit your cash flow with the $100,000, but now every month you've got a $2,000 payment. It's not showing up on your P&L and it's money disappearing and you're wondering why you're so tight for cash. It's because you're making all the payments on the truck And if the truck isn't bringing you more business, which more likely it isn't, you're now making less profit. I tell people you're going to buy a $100,000 truck and you've got a 10% profit margin. That means you need to sell $1,000,000 just to pay for that truck. Now you realize how hard it is, and that's the problem. So these are all the metrics that we look at for you so that you don't have to do it yourself. Let's face it, there are parts of your business you love, there are parts you hate. I am the same way. I love looking at numbers. I geek out over spreadsheets. Most people don't. I don't know why, because I think it's fun, but I get it. You might not. You might geek out over something else. Well, go do that and let somebody like me geek out over this. Bottom line is every month we look at all of these different numbers. We create a custom dashboard for you that shows you all of this in one simple, easy to see space. We bring your attention to the metrics that are doing well, the metrics that aren't, and we get through this quickly. We'll tell you where you're going based on our forecast. We'll say, hey, thumbs up, thumbs down. And we do this every month for you so you know what's going on. The purpose is to keep you staying on track. We'll also watch your cash flow and help you to manage that and make sure you're making the right decisions. And then we'll answer the million questions that you always have, like what marketing is working for me? Can I afford a new employee? Can I afford new tools? Can I buy a new tractor? Whatever those costs and choices are, we help you with it. Every month we come up with an action plan for you. So when you leave the call, you're like, hey, these are the 3 or 4 things, or maybe 1 or 2 things that I need to work on this month to keep making more money or to grow or to continue to build what that is. We also work with business owners to say, okay, now that we've got this money, how do I remove it from the company? And what's the best way for me to build personal wealth as well as business wealth? Because let's face it, owning a business is a roller coaster and we don't always get what we want in the way we want it. And so having that excess cash outside of your business or building other streams of income ensures that you are always going to be safe and secure and profitable outside the business. Plus, when we know what you need for your personal needs, we know what the business needs to generate and what you need to remove so that you can enjoy your life at home, because that's why you went into business, to have freedom, to have money, to be able to do these things. And so that's our goal of what we do. And we make it simple and easy for you to understand. The reality is every business works within these metrics that we talked about. In some businesses, some metrics are much more important than others. And that's what we help you figure out. At the end of the day, we want to keep you on track, let you know, hey, these are the couple things that you need to work on. These are the systems or processes we need to start implementing. These are the ways that we can help to judge our people, bonus our people, pay commissions, do all of these things. And sometimes we just do what if modeling. All of this, once we've got it down, we can sit down and do what if modeling in minutes to say, well, what if we increase our lead flow? And what if we change our closing rate? What does that do to sales? What if I increase prices 10%? And what if I need to add another employee now to help because we've got more sales? How does all of that work? Well, you know what? Within seconds, we can change all of those metrics in the equation and tell you what the bottom line is. Now, here's the surprising thing. Sometimes when I work through business owners with these types of things, they realize that doing more results in them having less. And so then we change the leverage points. We change the metrics. We change the way they do business so that they can work less and make more. Because at the end of the day, that is what it is all about. That's why we constantly close out the show with the same thing. All right. You don't need necessarily more revenue. You need to be more resourceful with your money. We need to focus on the bottom line. You want help with this? Get on my calendar. If you want to do it yourself, that's cool too. Everything that we do for our clients, we share here and we tell you what we do, and you'll hear me give it all away, and that's cool. And you'll hear some of my competitors come on and they'll share their secrets too. Because at the end of the day, our goal is that you're successful, you make money, and that you're able to provide for your family and for the country and help us all do better. So thanks for listening today. I hope this was helpful and enjoyable. You got questions, ask. We've got content everywhere these days, so check it all out. And hopefully we'll chat. Have a wonderful day. Thanks for listening to this unedited video of the Profit Answer Man podcast. If you'd like to catch the full episode and learn more about what we do, check us out at profitcomesfirst.com. We also go through the Profit First book in each and every chapter in the beginning episodes of the podcast, so check those out as well. Thanks for listening, and here's to you having a more profitable and growing business.